Oklahoma State hires Doug Meacham as their new offensive coordinator to replace Kasey Dunn. Tyler, I'll let you take the floor. Tell me a little bit about what Oklahoma State fans can expect from Doug Meacham. Is this an upgrade from Kasey Dunn? Um, just talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, I think, and now people around here might feel differently, but I have talked to some people around Stillwater already, and they were kind of like Meacham. Like, I don't think it hit people with maybe the excitement people were expecting. I think some people were expecting maybe a younger coordinator, maybe a hotter name. Especially when you just look at what Doug's been up to recently, inside receivers coach at TCU. Like, I mean, when I first see that, I see like, oh, so he's not coaching all the receivers at TCU, just some of the receivers at TCU. So like, I totally get that. I'll be honest, I kind of thought Oklahoma State might go or should at least go for a younger, kind of buzzier candidate, and we can circle back to like sort of I think the strengths of that. But diving in, I don't have a lot of familiarity with Meacham's game. So I'm researching him this week, just like probably a lot of other people are. And what obviously he had great success with, he was the offensive coordinator at TCU 2014 to 2016. If we remember back 2014, unless my memories completely failed me, TCU is right there on the door to the college football playoff. And the offense is a big reason why. I mean, across the board, second in points per game, 11th in yards per play, 19th in yards per carry, 39th on third down. Like, I mean, that offense, and there are other metrics, but like for me, those, especially with the way Oklahoma State struggled this past year, those were I wanted to see an offense that was explosive, that could run the ball, move the chains on third down and score points because I felt like that was the area that those were pretty much the areas this offense struggled the most. And I mean, that checks all the boxes. You go forward to, okay, everybody can have one good year, good players maybe. Next year at TCU, seventh in scoring, 14th in yards per play, 28th in yards per carry, 32nd on third down. So that's two good years. 2016, that I guess we would call that the down year. Uh, TCU was 64th or better in all of those stats, including 30th in yards per carry, which again, everybody who watched Oklahoma State this year knows this team needs to figure out how to run the ball again, and 40th in yards per play. So TCU's offense was explosive, struggled a little bit to score, struggled to move the ball on third down relative to where they were before. But I mean, I think if I asked an Oklahoma State fan right now, would you take basically top 50 in all major offensive stats? I think they would sign up for that after this season. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what we're looking at. Just to sort of give more background on him for people who haven't done the research. Goes to Kansas for about a year and a half. And I'll just tell you, not didn't light the world on fire. Kansas ranked outside the top 100 in most stats. That said, it's Kansas, and I know Kansas is a lot better these days, but if we can pitch our minds back to what we thought about Kansas football even 5 years ago, I think that makes more sense. He's at Kansas in 2017 and 2018. At that point, I think Kansas is on a more of like, oh, one good year and then we're back down. And then maybe a good year and back down. Like, remember, Kansas football used to be like everybody's homecoming game, and that's what he's working with. TCU, it's kind of a weird circumstance. TCU makes him the offensive coordinator again in 2021. 10th in yards per play, 31st in yards per carry, 11th on third down, 65th scoring. So like just to let y'all in, I'm doing all this research. I see the TCU numbers. I'm like, oh, okay, this could be good. I see the Kansas numbers. I'm like, oh, this could be bad. And then I see that, he has one season at TCU 2021. Um, and that to me, the fact that two different stints at TCU, he's hitting those numbers, that maybe says it's more about the personnel where Kansas was at that time
hmm
than maybe his ability to coach those guys. That said, now maybe like me, you're thinking, wait, why was he the offensive coordinator in 2021 at TCU? And then he's the inside wide receivers coach. That seems like a demotion. Well, it is. It is a demotion, but TCU TCU underwent some changes, at the top, and Meacham was deemed important enough to stay on, but new coaching staff wants their fingerprint on coordinator spots, which I think we see a lot of places. To me, I think you could paint it either way. It's a red flag because he got demoted, or it's a green flag because they wanted to keep him on. So I think you can, I think you can sort of look at that either way. So the Meacham hire initially hit me like, I'm not sure about this, but I've kind of come around. I do think it's an upgrade for this team. Granted, I have some concern because he hasn't run an offense in the last couple years. Um, you know, football every like 2 to 3 years, I feel like we're watching a new sport play out on Saturdays. So, that gives me some pause. It's not like he's not been involved in the preparation at TCU, but he hasn't run an offense. So and obviously TCU Fort Worth, great recruiting ground there. Um, Oklahoma State does all right recruiting from that area, but I we'll just have to see sort of what he's got to work with. Transfer portals going on, but I feel okay. I've talked myself into this being a much better hire than I thought it was. Initially.